Welcome to the Scottish Property Podcast. This is a show where we aim to educate, inspire and entertain through real life stories and interviews from people in the Scottish property community.
As always, thanks for listening and give us a follow on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember to join us at our monthly networking events on the first Wednesday of every month. Tickets are available on our website. So without further ado, we'll just cut straight into this week's podcast. Okay, welcome back, Chris and Andrew, to Scottish Property Podcast. 2 years ago, was it?
2 years
Time
ago,
flies,
yes,
absolutely.
yes.
So obviously, it's going to be very much a different conversation to the one we had 2 years ago, where I think you just came out a residential flip and you were in the process of doing an essay down in Irvine as well. So we'll talk about that transition from kind of residential into commercial, but just to give the listeners an insight, obviously a lot of you will know Chris and Andrew from speaking at the events and obviously listening to podcasts previously. But one of the big achievements over the last couple of years has been Brightstone Spaces in Falkirk, which is a 30-unit space business centre, effectively, CMO. Massive big project. I had the privilege of coming up to see it when you guys were just about to start the work, and I was like amazed at the scale of it. I was like, how do you go from doing a couple of small projects to this size of building? And you guys are going to explain how you did it, how you financed it, how it turned out, and how it's running operationally as well. So that basically is the hook for today's podcast. We're going to get a huge amount of value from you, I think, guys, and welcome back.
Thanks so much for having us back.
Kids, how's that for an intro?
That was a good intro.
Is that all right?
That was amazing.
Yeah, well done.
Right, so obviously, I regard you guys as mates now because you've been at that many events and stuff like that, and we've got to know you pretty well. But just for the listeners, obviously bring us back to that, 2 years ago and, where you guys were at, Chris.
Yeah, so I think definitely a lot's changed in the past 2 years, it's fair to say. So we listened back to that first podcast because couldn't quite remember maybe where we were at or what we were doing. And there was a lot of kind of just abouts in that podcast. So we just about sold our kind of last residential flip that we've done. We just about got Irvine, the kind of SA and shop, our kind of first smaller commercial. We just about get that finished. And we just about had an offer accepted in Falkirk. So I don't even think we talked about the Falkirk CMO because we weren't quite finished there.
Aye.
Fast forward to now, we've got the commercial up and running in Irvine. That's going well, and we've certainly sold that flip. That's a distant memory. And the CMO in Falkirk, we've been able to refurb it, tenant it, and get it refinanced within kind of 18 months, which is
obviously, if you listen to Jerry Alexander's podcast as well, he uses these guys as the poster boys as well. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So like, you are the poster boys of the CMO commercial space now.
Residential is a distant memory for you guys. What?
But and Andrew, just a little bit, for those listeners who haven't listened to the first episode as well, about how you guys obviously know each other as well.
Yeah, we're long-term friends. Basically, we were. It was a common friend that brought us together, and we were just that for a good 10, 15 years. And we kind of got together during the pandemic. Chris had been thinking about getting into property for a while, and had a bit of money, and I had saved a wee bit of money from my cafe business, and thought, actually, maybe we could do something together. Property's not cheap, and it gave us a good opportunity to kind of. We started with a flip and sort of built it from there once we knew our partnership was working well.
I actually thought you were a couple at first, like before. I'm sure you probably get that a lot.
Some people still do for some reason. But
and then I seen it popped up on Chris with his wife and kids, and I was like, on your Facebook, I was like, oh no, I've totally got that wrong. I'm glad I never put my foot in it. Do you know what I mean? But looking back at it now, I find that quite funny. That for like months and months when you used to come to the events and all that, I had you down as a couple.
We've had brothers quite a lot. We've had the Brightstone brothers, I think.
Yes, the Brightstone.
Right, okay.
That, but I think that's the first time we've had that.
Yes,
all right, is it?
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Maybe some other listeners, maybe I'm not the only one. Anyway, but it's a good friendship. Obviously, we'll get into a bit about that as well, how you guys operate on a business level. And, it can't be all plain sailing. There must be some disagreements as well.
Don't know about that.
Who does, actually, just on it, who does what in terms of, how do you break it up in terms of responsibilities?
I think we probably do most things as a duo, to be fair, a proper partnership. I think when we've not really defined any roles as such, which is the wrong way to go about things when you're doing a business, but we've naturally fallen into what are our strengths. Andrew's definitely got more strengths in the finance and kind of sales side of things. I've got more strengths in the kind of operational and project work. So that's naturally where our strengths lie and what we would fall into. But we were talking about this earlier today with someone, and actually we both tend to, we make a lot of joint decisions. And I think that's fine just now because we are still growing and relatively small. But as we are starting to scale, we're seeing more and more that we're moving into those roles.
Right.
And it's, playing to our strengths.
What's been the biggest thing you've ever fallen out about? I'm trying to get some goss here.
Well, yeah, you're not going to get goss because I think the reality is it is the small stuff probably that we fall out over.
Who's going to turn up to the block toilet at the plunger?
Well, no, that's it. I've got that one well sorted.
I think that does fall under operational, unfortunately. Yeah.
Right. I think no, we definitely. We are a partnership, and I think that is key to our success. We also have a shared big vision. So I think when there is friction over the small things about, how a project's going to look or, smaller decisions, that big vision kind of guides us forward, and that kind of keeps us from falling out too much, I would say. There's always that motivation to make friends again type thing if you do.
I think we can talk about that bigger vision towards the end of the podcast and what your goals are and stuff like that. But obviously I want to talk about that transition from kind of, residential, looking back at that flip, and then why did you decide to pursue the commercial space a lot more? What was those reasons?
For us, because we're not a couple, it means that the money that we are that we're making is split 50-50. So, we'd done got our buy-to-lets, we'd bought the service accommodation in Irvine and the shop, and it was quite a lot of work just to get those deals, comparatively smaller deals, over the line. And then you look at how many more of these deals are we going to need to do to really make an impact on our lives. Chris was full-time in his job at the time. I had a cafe, and we both did want to see a bit of a plan for becoming full-time in property. And so we did start looking around basically for bigger deals that could accelerate our path into.
And by the way, this is how much you've come 2 years. Obviously, you have handed in your notice, and that must seem like a distant memory now. Your full-time job, was it which bank were you? Tesco Bank? No.
No, Mobile. Tesco Mobile.
Tesco Mobile, right, okay.
So that's distant, that's August last year I left.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Oh, fantastic. And Andrew's
full-time. Sold my cafe as well. So that was fantastic. That was a fantastic result for me, really. I think
a successful cafe as well.
Yeah, first business to sell a business, make some money out of it. A lot of smaller cafe businesses or whatever maybe just close or don't achieve that success. Whereas, I had run it like a proper business.
How long had you been going with that one?
It was pretty much almost 6 years.
Survived the pandemic?
Yeah, thrived in the pandemic, and had some really good numbers to then allow me to sell it and exit it. So I was chuffed with that. And
obviously we know as business owners it's tough, running a small business as well. You've got, staffing issues, you're having to jump in there, sort out all the problems. So that allows you the time, obviously, focus on your property business, which you've both come together now and you're full time in. And let's just talk about then, you were saying that when you came on the podcast previously, was it that day or the day before, you were just about completing on Brightstone Spaces, which it is now in Falkirk, the 30-unit building, which is now a business centre. Can you remember back to those days when you were, that day when you were about to pull the trigger on the deal? What was going through your mind at that point?
Yeah, so I think we'd done a lot of education and surrounded ourselves with people that were doing similar things, and I think that's definitely key to get your mindset right, so that when you are pulling that trigger, what is a substantial size project doesn't feel as scary as it could if you were doing it on your own without the knowledge or the understanding of the network. I think it would feel a lot scarier. But actually surrounding ourselves with those people and those network and getting that education through Jerry and the CPI network meant that actually we had the vision and we could see how it would work and how it would play out. I think we did want scale. That's always what we were looking for. And yeah, you're absolutely right. The day of the CPI, the podcast we done 2 years ago, we were actually waiting for a call back from the agent to tell us had the offer been accepted or not. Now,
twitchy bum time.
We actually didn't get a call back saying the offer had been accepted. We got a call back saying there's another interested party, and would you be able to come back with your best and final offer by the end of the week? At that point, we stood quite firm on where we were at. We'd already put our best and final in. We were happy with the price that we're putting in. And we then got accepted at the end of the
How did you find that building then? Who was it found it?
It was me that found it. As it happened, it was a 2-minute walk from my cafe business. I don't live in Falkirk, but Falkirk's delivered 2 decent sort of opportunities to me over the years. And it was more just a case of, it was pretty much, we had our criteria in our mind in terms of the sort of size we wanted, the price we could afford, and we wanted, you know, a good population around us.
What was that, just to give kind of listeners context to it?
The size?
Yeah, it's a big building, isn't it?
Well, this one's 7,500 square feet. We were ideally looking for 10, but we'd been looking for about a year for the right building. And so, you know, sometimes you just need to find the best that you can in the time. I think we could have waited another year saying, oh no, it needs to be 10 to find to find the perfect deal.
I know that feeling. I know how that
well, that wasn't a dig, Nick, but it's true. You know, you can't always tick all of the boxes. The reason we were looking for 10,000 is because typically that can maybe support a member of staff, or it can, you know, it just shares the bills out enough between the however many clients are in the room that it kind of justifies it.
Let's take a quick break, guys, from today's show to talk about selling your property with Prime Property Auctions. Now, myself and Stephen have both used John and Lewis from Prime in the past, and we can personally vouch for their service. They sell vacant and tenanted property, and you get to control the minimum reserve price so that you're not selling your property for peanuts. They pay for all the stuff like photos, videos, and all the marketing stuff up front, so you're not paying anything from the start, and it's a no sale, no fee. So if you want to check out Prime Property Auctions, then get across to the link on the show notes and speak to the guys.
7,000, did you have an idea of minimum amount of clients or minimum amount of spaces you could get out of the building?
Yeah, I mean, we quickly sort of did the drawings, and we reckoned we could get upwards of 25, and obviously we ended up getting 30 sort of small and medium-sized rooms. The way it was at that time, it was kind of, particularly the top floor was just a big open plan floor plate really of 3,500 square feet, and that wasn't going to be right for, you know, you weren't going to be able to get one tenant typically that would take that much space, whereas you carve it down into the smaller spaces and you can get a higher rate for that small space.
So it must have been quite a daunting thought to go from a residential, I think the shop in Irvine was 2 flats, biggest project, to now substantial building with potentially 25, 30 spaces in it, and a big development cost, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think the scale and the numbers were bigger than what we dealt with.
Can we get into nuts and bolts of the numbers then, how you structured the deal then? Because a lot of people will just pause at that small level project and not have the vision or the risk appetite to go to that next level. So, you know, give us a wee breakdown in terms of, obviously you've given us the size there. What was the asking price, purchase price, and how did you structure that deal effectively?
Okay. Yeah. So purchase price was £310,000.
Asking price was?
Asking price was 400,000.
Nice. Nice negotiating there.
A good negotiation from Andrew.
Who's the best negotiator out of two yous? Are you?
I mean, Andrew's certainly been the one that's probably found most of the deals and done negotiating, but I think...
Are you the tighter one then?
We both make decisions together, and sometimes that can help with the negotiation as well, because when you are talking to someone, neither of us would make that decision on their own to go up to 315 or 320 or change the number. It would be okay, let's go back and discuss it, and I think that buys you time in a negotiation as well.
That's a big difference in the asking price though, because
what's amazing is that at the time, you know, you were talking about squeaky bum or whatever, we were desperate for the deal.
Right.
We were
so you were well over.
We had been looking. We'd been looking for basically the entire time we were doing Jerry's Mastermind, which was 9 months. We'd finished it. We were desperate for a deal, but you know, so we could have. But I suppose a couple of realities is we maybe didn't have enough money to go wildly over what we did, but also we were like, it worked for our numbers in terms of what we thought the end value was going to be, how much we were going to spend. You know, we felt that was what worked for the deal.
So did you only put in that one offer and you didn't have to work your way up?
No, we did work up. We started at 285.
Right.
Which they felt was too cheeky.
Did you get laughed at by the agent?
Well,
no,
They all right?
I mean, it was quite quick. No, I think from
We've had this before, right? From like other folk we've had on the podcast, that they've been getting feedback from like estate agents. This is more on residential side of things, right? Where the agent will come back to them, how dare you insult us like that by putting in that offer, you know? So that happens quite a lot.
Business at the end of the day. And no, the agent came back to us and said, I was surprised that the owner didn't immediately shut it down, but he said he would like more.
Right. That's fair enough.
So you knew you didn't have to go huge amounts more to
So
get
we're like, okay, fair enough.
Do you know what I'm interested in? Like, so to make this comfortable for you guys taking this big jump, what was the due diligence process to understand, well, what's the demand for these small spaces in Falkirk? What's our revenue going to be and what's our end value going to be? Because these are, I'm assuming there was no comparables in Falkirk or any other town near it to go, oh, there's one like that and they've got that occupancy rate and they get this price per square foot. They're just going, shit.
There was some comparables, yeah. That's what made us comfortable with it, I think. So there was probably one other town centre business hub that was full and had a waiting list.
Nice.
There was...
Is that like one of the big operators? Like one of the... Or was it just an independent?
Privately owned business.
Independent one. There was one out of town, again, privately owned independent, and that was full. I think it had one room available. There was another couple dotted around in it, and it was a similar feedback that you're seeing, that actually you do some mystery shops, you pretend you're a client wanting some space to understand what it is they're offering.
Did you get an idea on the client base that they had or what the type of businesses they were?
Yeah, I mean, a total mix, and I think if we'd set out with the idea of what clients we were going to get in Brightstone Spaces, we couldn't have picked what the mix we've got, because it's business space. It's not traditional office, it's business space, and it's definitely a real mix.
So tips to doing that due diligence then for listeners.
Yeah,
you talk about quite a lot, just going out and doing a viewing, setting up a viewing as if you're a potential customer.
Set up a viewing, talk to the operators in the area, understand what they're looking for, get a rate of what people are paying per desk or per square foot, and see how busy or not they are. You're not going to know everything. Obviously, it's you're having to suss out, but then you build a bit of a picture that makes you comfortable. And then how we then done our numbers is we said, well, okay, if we can deliver a better quality product for the same price that the competitors are already doing and they're already full, then we're going to do well. And that's where we set the bar. And that's why.
What did you do for minimum occupancy? Did you have a percentage for like?
We knew that we needed to fill the ground floor to pay the bills. Basically, and then the top floor was going to be.
Is it a 50-50 split, or is it more?
Pretty much. It's 3.5 and 3.5. So it's we knew that we had to fill.
Right.
We knew we had to fill.
So it's not like, when you look at it like that way, it kind of settles your risk a wee bit, does it? It kind of like, you think to yourself, right, it'd be different if it was like, all right, we have to fill it about 80% or something like that. That would be like quite high risk, but 50% is like.
And I think one of the other things, I think we've spoken about it before, was we were also surrounded. Probably we'd got ourselves into that circle of people who were doing maybe similar things. There was Stephen and Derek. They obviously had their place in Hamilton. They were probably, I don't know how far ahead of us they were, but they were ahead of us in terms of getting their occupancy. Yep. They knew what the feedback was, and there were other people as well around us. So we could see the kind of rates that they were getting, the kind of clients, what was working in terms of how do you do the sales, how do you get the marketing in. So we were.
If you can do it in Hamilton, you can do it in Falkirk.
Well, no comment.
I think Hamilton would be a great.
Yeah, we would love
to.
No,
Hamilton's a joke.
Yeah,
Hamilton's good.
Yeah, we would. I think that's. It's the people that what they're doing gives you confidence in the market, for sure.
I think it's great.
It's seeing the occupants, the residents that are around, what is the population of the area. And actually you look at Falkirk and it's got a massive population within the kind of Falkirk and Forth Valley area. So yeah, there's definitely demand in people.
What about that finance pressure though, of like, so you've purchase costs, I don't know if you want to go into development costs as well, and then think, well, fucking, there's a lot of money on the table here. I'm assuming this is not coming from your own pockets. And then valuation, how did you predict that would come back on a certain multiplier of the income? Or
yeah, so this was a real growth journey for us in terms of, we had taken private investment before, but it was generally from people who knew, liked and trusted us. Yeah. And so this time, that was still going to be an option, but we did think we were going to bridge this building. We'd had a quote through for that. And then another network that we were in, we were doing a presentation and a couple reached out to us after it who had a sizable SaaS pension. And they actually acted as the bank on this. So that was an added pressure because it was an 18-month bridge, and it's interesting talking to other people who maybe if they self-fund it, or it's out of their own pension, you find that the project almost takes twice as long because they've not got that pressure. Whereas just today, I'm skipping ahead slightly here, but just today we refinanced our building and we paid the investor back yesterday on the nose, on the day.
That's brilliant.
And that was a fantastic achievement for us to say that we
Credibility.
we have done exactly what we said we would do.
All right, so just going back to that, so just talk us through. So purchase price 310.
310.
How much of your own money did you put in that?
We put 30 or 40 grand
For the purchase?
for purchase price.
And then the rest comes from this couple that you met at a networking event. How much did you have to nurture that relationship to get that level of money? Is that a lot? Is that a long time to get?
Surprisingly little.
So this is interesting stuff.
We did put up, don't get me wrong, so we had a couple, they stayed down south.
They thought you were a couple as well.
No, I don't think they did.
That's why they trusted you.
But they
Chris gave you a dirty look there.
Will that be caught, yeah?
down south, so they were down south, so it was literally a couple of Zooms actually. Don't get me wrong, we prepared for it. We wanted to be professional and give that good impression and give them the confidence that we knew what we were doing. I think some of the things in terms of networking that we were doing added to our credibility. Things with Jerry, for example, the fact that we were still continuing to benefit from that training.
I see that presentation that you did talking about presenting. Did you stand up in front of a big crowd there?
It was online.
It was online.
Oh, that was online?
Yeah, it was online.
But you presented did you talk about your Irvine project then?
Yeah.
That's exactly
So that kind of gave them the confidence.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
And I think as well, as much as they didn't know us before that, I think there was other people in the network that maybe knew us and knew them. And it's I think being in the right rooms and talking to the right people, they then maybe had confidence that we were doing, or we had up to then done what we said we had done.
It'd be interesting because I bet you there's loads. I mean, there must be hundreds of people looking for finance like that. So it'd be interesting to ask them what it was in you guys that they saw to give that level of trust and
I think what they
money
saw
to.
is, one, it was a SAS pension and we were doing a commercial project,
Yeah.
and SAS and commercial works very well together, so they were looking for a commercial opportunity. I think they saw that we had done various projects before, so they could see a bit of a track record, and I think that's important. Right from the beginning when we started, we did start using our own money before we brought any investment into it. We talked about that in the last podcast, so we'd kind of tried to build up that track record. And I think they had confidence, the feedback from them as well is that they had confidence in the networks that we were in. So I think we took credibility from Jerry and the CPI network, and the fact that we had done training and were with them, they had heard of that.
I suppose
and
if
they
you'd
knew
run
that
into
we've
difficulty,
got-
you've got the support of other people in the network as
Yes,
well that they'd
exactly,
probably felt quite comfortable with.
And then why do you think they didn't, obviously they're going to these events and stuff like that, so they're obviously interested in doing property themselves. So why do you think they just didn't take the money and do a project themselves? And that's the thing that holds me back from private investing, is that the opportunity lost for yourselves and Stephen and all the rest of it. My money's sat in the bank doing 0.2% interest. You know what I mean? I'm always thinking in the back of my head, no, I want to be doing these projects, but I've never been able to get around to doing it because I've been caught out of business, going on holiday and all this.
I'm going to rub salt.
Cry me a river.
I'm going to rub salt in the wounds.
Yes.
Imagine if you gave them the private investor finance, that they could have just paid for your trip to South Africa.
Aye, 11%.
Several times over.
What was it?
Several times over.
What was the payment at 11% then? What did you have to give them back in terms of
over
interest?
the 18 months, it's been just shy of 40, I think.
Oh, fantastic.
Would have paid for a family trip to Dubai for you.
If you could have guaranteed I would have got it back in that time, but there's always that unknown in it. It's
There's never a guarantee with investment. I think that
exactly.
there is a risk with any investment.
Did you put clauses in place on that with the agreement, or was it quite flexible that, okay, they wanted it back in 18 months, but you could go over for an extra whatever percentage, or did you?
Yeah, there wasn't quite the way the kind of bridging where it's kind of guaranteed they'll pay a 5% or something and you'll put it over, but I think it's about that relationship, and that's the relationship we built with them through the time. It was really important to us to do what we said we were going to do, pay it back in time, and actually we've done the product, we've got it filled, we've been able to get a decent valuation to
How
do
much
that.
contact did you have with the investors throughout the time? Did you kind of keep them updated with the progress as well? And did you need to? Did they even ask? Did they?
So that's it. That is what's amazing as well, is they were completely hands off in terms of in terms of asking for updates, but we made ourselves do it, because that is one of the things they had said the start is some of the other projects that invested in. One of the signs usually that's not going so well is zero communication. People go silent. And so, we wanted to keep them reassured. Don't get me wrong, it could be every couple of months that we were giving them a wee video update. So it wasn't regular, but I think we just maintained that throughout, and we knew it in ourselves. If, for example, we'd run into hurdles getting the refinance or whatever, we would have been straight on telling them, because I think they would have appreciated that so much. They're people as well at the end of the day. They're investors as well. They do invest in their own projects, but so they would realise that things don't always go to plan, but tell us what your plan is. I think would
they go again for another project? Have you asked them?
Certainly hope so.
Yeah, I've had that conversation.
Yeah.
And
they were happy then.
They were happy, and I think it's just a case of finding that next project.
No, I think that's. I mean, for people, we always talk about the private investor finance and all that, and how to find investors. That'd be really good information there. Again, going back to the nuts and bolts of the deal structure, we're getting there, but we're going off topic. So bridging finance, was that? No, you didn't go down that route.
They replaced the bank.
So you didn't. And then I'm thinking, obviously there was a substantial renovation.
Yes.
So how did you get the money for that? So it was a cash buy?
No, it was they lent us the money, so they replaced the bank essentially. So the SAS pension
bought the building.
We bought the building. The SAS pension lent us the money for it. So
okay.
Yeah.
And then we had obviously, over the last few years, we had been building up money through flip profits. We'd made 100 odd grand with that. Some refinances that had come through. So we had a pot, although we're saying maybe 30, 40,000 that we put in. Actually,
that was for the purchase of the
agreement was that we were funding the development. Right. So technically the funds we had were from our funds that we had either profits or our money originally, and all these things added.
Other investors as well that we'd already had stayed with us for this project as well. So the money that came out of refinances went into this project. So we put the total refurb cost on it was about 260,000.
Just on the refurb? What was your initial, did that tie in with your initial estimate?
No.
Absolutely.
How far over were you?
We were probably about 100 grand off.
100,000 off.
Oh,
and
is that just because of inexperience, or just what else happened along the way?
There was probably a couple of things. So one, I think the scale of the project was bigger, and I think some things that we priced up that actually, we just underpriced. And looking at it now, you go, yep, we realise we underpriced that. We'll know for next time not to underprice it like that.
Any specifics, just off the top of your head?
In terms of scale, it's like the cost of flooring, the cost of decorating, the cost of partitioning. It's just knowing those numbers and actually not appreciating the scale. You coming from Resi, you know how much it is to carpet a house, a 3-bed house, and it's like doing the numbers and trying to scale it up. It didn't work out how we originally done.
I think. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that there's then the unknown costs that.
What would they have been?
Know, so big thing was probably almost day one was we realised it needed a new fire system. We thought the fire system was correct. It wasn't. That was 15 grand.
Wow.
On day one.
Mm-hmm. Did you think, fuck, what have we done now?
Absolutely, that's the first one. You're like,
I'd be like you. I'd be like, can I not just go to Amazon and get the interconnect and smoke them? Just stick them in.
Well, no, we looked and we thought, well, it's been working for these guys, existing, for a good few years. We'll just carry it forward. You could see the sensors in every room. We're like, okay, that ticks all the boxes.
Didn't comply with current regulations, or it just didn't work properly.
It was at the end of its life. It became quite apparent that actually it probably should have been replaced maybe 5 or 10 years ago by the previous owner, but it wasn't done. So it was a cost, and it's like, we need to do it. That's
what about security? Do you have to think about that as well? Was that a kind of factor?
Secure door entry. I think we probably had factored that into his numbers. Whether we'd got it right or wrong, I can't remember. But secure door entry, CCTV throughout the place. Another kind of big cost that we probably didn't appreciate as much was just the infrastructure for internet, for kind of Wi-Fi and internet coming into the premises. That's another thing that I just really I'd be thinking, can I not just get a router on each floor and everybody just
well, that's it. And to be fair, I think even when we owned the building, we were still thinking that was the way it worked. Get a Virgin broadband, which
business
I had.
Broadband.
That's what I had in the cafe.
40 quid a month. Yeah, exactly. Why can't we get that?
So sadly, it's more like 300 quid a month plus VAT or whatever is what's.
That's
really
what it does
for a dedicated line that's going to give you the response time. Say you've got 80 people working in your office and they're all relying on that internet and it goes down, you want to be top of the list to get, top of someone's list for it to be fixed, and you need to pay a price for that. The most stressful days in the hub there have been is probably when the first person comes out of the office and go, is the internet not working? Because you're like, oh my God, it's just going to affect everyone.
Is there specialist providers that you need to go with? Like,
yes,
for that sort of level?
There is,
stuff,
So it's your own dedicated line that's going into the building, and that's what the cost.
No other buildings are feeding off it. It's straight to the the cabinet, things like that.
I mean, obviously, like you guys can obviously go out and like reset the router and all that, right? But what your IT skills obviously go at a certain level. How do you? I mean, that is like a major problem. The internet goes down. You've got all these businesses who are relying.
You call the company, and that's what you're paying for. They will either fix it remotely, which I think's happened. I mean, it's only been down 2 or 3 times. I think, and that was at the early stages where I think it was still bedding in. But you call that's what you're paying for. You call that company, and they either fix it remotely or someone comes out to fix it.
Luckily, like you say, it doesn't happen too often. But
But I think just to quickly run through the refurb type thing. So we, bought the building in the October 23. We set ourselves a target that we wanted to have at least 3 rooms staged and ready for January. It was like New Year. We felt that's a good opportunity to get new clients, potentially. Businesses will be thinking, right, I'm going to move. So that really pushed us to get, there was actually a lot that needed done just to even get, the building open for those 3 rooms. So you needed to do your door entry, entranceway all needed sorted. The 3 rooms needed stripped and painted and new ceilings in, all that sort of thing. But it really pushed us, and we managed to get 3 rooms. And then it was great for getting the viewings in, because you could show someone, this is the aspiration, this is the way it's going to be. You like that style? You can have it in this room over here that's currently a wreck. And people went with you on it, which was good. And I think definitely a lesson for us on CMO is get people in as early as you can.
That was great.
Get people in as early as you can, because some people want to almost, but like a flip maybe, where it's like you don't even want the estate agent to see it until it's all staged or whatever. Get people in as early as possible, and actually a lot of people will work with you. There was probably a couple of clients that we did show around that couldn't quite visualize it, but they were never going to be for you anyway.
So you almost created like a marketing suite. You know how you go to these off-plan developments, and people are buying off-plan. That's what people were buying into, the kind of vision stuff.
Yeah.
So that was like, because otherwise you could have lost, if you'd waited for the full building to be finished, you could have lost a lot of time, a lot of money.
We also needed the revenue coming in as well. So, we might, progressing on, we've actually managed to fill the ground floor in 12 weeks. We got them all pre-let, the 15 rooms pre-let in 12 weeks, which was great.
How was the marketing? How did you get these clients? And
I mean, it was really a lot of different, firing a lot of shots at the wall in terms of, we were on Rightmove, we were on lots of different online portals, Instagram. We set up our Instagram page, did some direct reach out to people that we thought would be really good for the business. Local gatekeepers, people who maybe operate in the town and could maybe send you some referrals, things like that. So it was like, a couple from each wee channel, really.
Yeah. But going after it.
Yeah.
What about local business networking groups and stuff like
all
that?
Absolutely. That's what a lot of people think is, commercials are a real struggle, because you see something on the market with whatever commercial agent and they just sit empty for years and years, but you kind of see that you can fill commercial spaces by being proactive and getting after it and finding these clients.
Yeah, and I think what's amazing is, the agent that we actually did buy it from, we've got a good relationship with him, but I think he has been impressed at how quickly we have filled that space. If he'd had it, probably wouldn't, it would have sat on their books and just, taken a few years to fill type thing, probably.
It's two things, probably what the priority is, and that was absolutely our priority.
Need to be.
And we're not giving it to an agent where it's one of 100 properties they're sitting with. And secondly, it's about having the right product for the market. And a lot of these things that sit on that you see sitting for years, it's because they're big 7,500 square foot buildings that someone wants to just let out as one unit, and that's not popular.
There's not
for
demand
a lot of
for that.
businesses. There's not demand. What there is demand for is small 100, 200, 300, 400 square foot offices that are fully serviced, all inclusive, one bill, no hassle. You come in, you set up your laptop and you start working.
See, as an independent operator as well, are you able to kind of, undercut slightly these big, like the big kind of, I don't know what they're called, Regis or something like that? You see them all over the place, because are you guys VAT registered? Are you able to save businesses? You are VAT registered now as well, right? Okay, so you can't undercut on the VAT, but are you able to offer a better price compared to some of the bigger operators, or is it not really work like that?
I don't think we're trying to compete on price is the only thing you want to compete on. You want to make sure you're delivering quality. I think what we probably
How would you differ in
offer,
quality?
Well, I think what we would offer over some of the bigger players would be it's a more personal and flexible approach. We're not a big corporation that has black and white rules. This is how it is. We will talk to you as you come in for a view and understand what your needs are, and then see if we can make something that works for you. Ultimately, you want a space for your business, and we've got space available for business. It can match up, and we just want to create that relationship.
And do you rent in terms of meeting somebody's needs and all that? What would that be in terms of like space, in terms of furniture? Like, what do you have to provide, or are they just some people just want empty rooms, or is there a range?
Yes, some people, we had probably this vision of everyone was going to take X number of desks, X number of chairs in every office, and that we were quickly disabused of that idea, because actually I think a handful of offices ended up taking desks and chairs because they either A, had them, or B, it wasn't that kind of business. It wasn't the kind of business that sat at a desk and things. So typically, as standard, we can offer standard furniture, which is a desk and a chair per person in the office, or we can offer it empty. Simple as that. And people are allowed to...
Is there a price difference for that?
No price difference, but we do take an extra deposit at the moment if we give them furniture. And then we want them to feel at home in their space, so they can decorate their room, they can change it as much as they like, on the proviso that it goes back at the end. And again, to be honest, the reality is most people are happy with what.
Do you have any clients that have got standing desks with a treadmill underneath? Because that's what I would be wanting.
We saw one in the office in Fife the other day, didn't we? They exactly got a step machine set up in the laptop there. So
there you go.
Yes, no, we don't provide that as standard, but
that setup of mine lasted about 2 weeks, and then the treadmill's been put to the side. It's now gathering dust, but that was quite cool. Well, it lasted.
So in terms of the journey, we obviously filled the ground floor 12 weeks, and then that's when the challenges really started, was going up to the top floor. We had a bit of a curveball in terms of the opportunity from the likes of a Regis. Actually, they came along and offered us the opportunity. We decided, again, we didn't want to hand our fate on to some other corporate. We needed that project to work, but we were fundamentally over budget as a reality as we came to the end of the ground floor. So,
sorry, when you say an opportunity, what they wanted to...
Opportunity, they would have come and operated it for us.
Oh, right, okay, right. So they were like,
they were
take
desperate
over
to get into Falkirk.
Right, okay,
at the
okay.
time. We decided
that was great, wasn't it? You said, "Oh, well, thanks very much, but no, we'll do it." And now you're like,
well, yes, I think it was the right decision for us.
Aye.
And but actually, then the fact that we had filled the ground floor so quickly gave us the confidence that, okay, we're running short of funds here, but we need to go and raise this. And we knew it was going to be about 100,000.
Right, that must have been a challenging point then. Was that the most stressful part of the process then? This is when you're running over budget on the renovation already, and you've still got another floor to go. Yes. And this, I saw it when it was a shell, right? They had to put in extra windows in that, or make the windows bigger. Yeah. There was all that. Was that planning permission, by the way, you had to get for all that? So there's all that, but dealing with the council, the stress, the time taken. So how did you push through those days then where you're really in doubt and you're stressed? And how did you pull together and push through?
I think that is definitely the benefit of having the two of us and being able to bounce off each other. There was probably a lot of days that we were both very negative and not happy, but more often than not, there's one of you that's maybe a bit lighter and can bring up the mood and push through. I think as well, you've got the vision, because we'd delivered the ground floor and we were filling up and we were getting great feedback from clients. We'd started to pre-let some of the rooms upstairs as well. So we know that actually it's a temporary cash flow issue. Right. We need it. We know that actually there is a way through this because we got demand for the product that we're delivering. We're actually achieving more rental than what we'd set out to with the due diligence that we'd done. We just need to continue and deliver the excellent product.
And had you literally ran out of money at this point, or running close to?
Running close to. I think we were waiting for a refinance to come through. So a refinance on the Irvine building came through round about that time. So that gave us some more money to go again.
Where did the rest of it come from?
We had to go out and raise some more money. We'd already given the kind of first charge security away to the original SaaS lender. So whereas we could have, not easily, but we could have potentially raised the money a bit easier through some other SaaS lenders that we knew, we weren't able to give them a security charge. So we needed lenders that were going to be unencumbered. We had some personal loans that we had to look to take out just to get the project over the line.
Right, so you're, at this point you're beg borrowing and not as far as stealing.
Ducking and diving.
No, we didn't steal, but I think that is the reality sometimes of
That's
projects.
good to share.
And I think, we had confidence in the project, I think is the reality. We could, like Chris said, it was a temporary cash flow issue. We had the demand there. We knew that how great the product looked downstairs. We just needed to keep plugging that gap until we got it full and the cash flow was.
Was that one individual or several that enabled you to get this?
Well, one investor, but
one investor.
But fundamentally, some of it came from our own personal funds as well, and from our we took some personal loans and things as well to get it.
I was wondering why you went to driving a Range Rover to Nissan Micra.
You're still on the job at the time. You were still on your job at the time, and you still had the cafe at this point.
Yes.
It's still like almost like a part-time.
It was.
For you.
It's not taking any money from the business either. No. It is every money. So the ground floor's let. There's money coming in every month, which is nice. That's going out and servicing it, paying some of the bills, using some of that cash flow to then do some of the works. It's juggling the cash flow of the business. But
I always laugh at the day that Chris finally handed in his notice. The day he finally left his job was pretty much, a week after we'd finished the project? I think so there was nothing to do. And he was kind of like,
upstairs, the first floor opened on the 8th of August, and my last day working was the 13th of August, I'm sure. So it was like, project was done. Coming in, the project was done, all the hard work was done, and it was then
how did that feel, leaving the job? Like, did you feel liberated, like free, or did you actually quite enjoy your work? Because we hear that sometimes people, they had an all right job.
I did. I enjoyed my work, had a great team, had a lot of flexibility. It was nice getting a salary every month for sure. I think I had a 3-month notice, so I'd kind of handed in my notice in the May time or something for leaving in August. And I think it was, a mixed feeling of, should I keep this a bit longer? Is it nice to have the salary? I don't hate the job. There's flexibility there. The project's coming to an end, so actually the time constraints are probably less. But actually, you need to do it. You need to take the plunge at some point. I
think. A controversial question: do you work more hours now that you're out your corporate job than you did before? Absolutely. And everyone thinks opposite. I want to get full time into property so I can reduce my hours. And you do fucking more, 100%.
Yeah, live on the passive income. This magical passive income.
And that's probably the difference. We've not created passive income.
No, you've got. I suppose with the CMO, but you've got yourself another job. You're operating an asset that you guys own, but day to day, I'm assuming there's jobs for you guys to do.
Well, that's it. I mean, we've definitely made the transition from residential investment to sort of commercial property as a business, and it is a business for us now. It's just like you've got your trading business. This is our trading business now.
But it is you've got the asset as well. It's an asset backed.
There's two facets to it. But it's not people talk about investment or cash flow and being hands off or whatever. This is not that. It's could you just like basically say like, well, I know this obviously what you're doing now, and we'll move on to how you're actually added to the business and you're managing other buildings as well. So there's property management as well. But if you didn't want to create more work for yourselves, and you were an investor, I'm talking about somebody else here, you could just hand that building over to somebody to manage for you, like what you guys are actually offering now. Absolutely. So let's say that someone that's just recently set up a SaaS and put a lot of money into that SaaS.
Nick's still got a vacant look here. He's not quite picked up who we're talking about.
Aye, that's what I could have done.
So there's obviously, if you wanted a more hands-off approach, you could invest that into a project, or you could also buy a commercial building with that, but give it to other people to operate, whether that be a Regis or whether that be something like what we're looking to do or doing currently as managing other people's commercial properties.
Right, so you had to go and get that extra cash, right? Yes. You're now at the top, the second floor. You're way over budget. Yep. You've managed to get the extra money. You're progressing with the refurb. when you're doing your working from home job, you're carrying up hundreds of sheets of plasterboard.
Did you see the CCTV?
I just seen the pictures of you. Was it doors getting delivered and you guys were left?
Oh, those fire
Even I get
doors.
drafted in for that one, and that was unbelievable.
Aye. So anyway, you're what I love about your story, guys.
FD60s, yeah.
What I love about your story is that you were quite you're hands-on, getting your hands dirty. Well, you were anyway. In there, in the refurb process, overseeing it every day, because you have to, don't you? You need to be overseeing it, especially when you're dealing with tradesmen, contractors, and you had your fair share ups and downs with contractors as well. We won't go into too much of that, but
yeah, no, I think absolutely. I think there's with anything, there's good contractors and bad contractors, and we've had our fair share. I think one good shout out to someone that really helped us out, a friend of the podcast, would be Ian Lindsay.
Yeah, Ian,
so
good guy.
Done a lot of our joinery and refurb work upstairs, and having someone that's got the connections you trust, can do a good job, is absolutely invaluable. We were very lucky that he was in between his new build projects. He doesn't usually do a lot of stuff for other people, that he was able to help us out on that. So having that was absolutely invaluable. There's other trades that we've used previously and we'll continue to use. There's definitely some contractors that we won't go back to and use again. But that's how these things work out. It is property. There's always going to be ups and downs and challenges. But being in there, managing it every day is absolutely essential.
So all in, so we've got purchase costs, we've got refurb costs, we've got the extra refurb costs.
Yes.
We've got holding costs, everything all included. How much you all in?
All in with everything was 640.
640. And then are you allowed to reveal the refinance?
Yes, we've just had a refinance done. So
yes, it just landed this morning.
Nice.
So
like literally hot off the press.
Literally, an hour as we were driving.
So just explain about that whole refinancing process. So you wait till you have the full place fully let.
So
it's not fully let, but it was 90% when we got the valuation.
It's now 97
to come out. There's two different types of valuation you'll get in commercial property. There's your bricks and mortar, or there's your on-market value.
And what have you gone for then?
So at the moment, because we don't have the trade in history, we've got your bricks and mortar, your vacant possession value. And then it's also backed by the fact that it's a business centre, it's trading. There is a certain level of open market value baked into that as well.
Right.
So where this, if it was just a single let property, they would maybe measure it on a square foot basis and say, well, it's £100 a square foot is what that property's worth. It's a bit of a hybrid valuation because it's already set up as a business centre.
And do you just go to a commercial broker to find you the best products, and they send out the value? Is that how it works?
Absolutely, yeah. So we use Stephen Gallagher, the Futurity Finance. Stephen and Derek have been great. I think really proactive in what they've done. They went out to market. He
must have been on the phone to you on the way down here today. Like, go on him.
He's a plug. My check's already in the post.
Nah, Stephen's a good guy. I've had on the podcast.
They've done that. You could see what Derek was just proactive in it as well, in terms of he was chasing the broker before, or the lender before we'd even asked for updates. So it was a real proactive approach there. Yeah, they went out to market, saw it was available, presented a couple of choices. There's then the valuation part where actually we speak to a couple of valuers, and we've done this ourselves, and Andrew spoke to some different valuers beforehand.
I think, again, that is definitely another whole lesson is, kind of almost making your own luck in terms of how it gets valued, because the agent that I mentioned earlier on works for a big corporate, and they were definitely one arm behind their back in terms of how they would be able to value this building. One approach that maybe wasn't the right approach for us, and we did manage to find another agent, another valuer that we had used previously, who was able to take that different approach, and in the end we got a value of 840. So we're in for 640, value of 840.
That's including your is that including your interest costs to pay back? No, that's
640 is all in
fees,
everything
finance,
all in.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
So brilliant. So the 840 is definitely a transition value. So in 2 years, once we've got, so long as we keep the building full and keep that track record going, the value is given us an indication of between 1.2 million and 1.3 million.
That's
so, because the top line rental income is very good. You would not expect that from.
Can you give us an idea of top line rental?
Or
just
Yes, I think we're looking at about 17 grand a month.
That's
totally
17,000 a month is the top line. Obviously,
There's a
there
lot
are
of costs.
A lot of-
there are
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of
That
costs.
including obviously your time as well.
Yes,
You've
that's
paid
it, exactly. There
you
are
need
costs.
to pay yourselves as well.
We've now got a mortgage to pay. So,
So it's just going back to the financing again. So like you get the end value there, 840. What loan to value are you taking on that?
70%.
So we've went for 70% against the VP value, and then
An idea on interest rate?
8.5%.
8.5.
8.5. So it's not ridiculously high, but it's definitely not the cheapest. I think you could have there was some other products that you could maybe go to 50% loan to value and maybe 6% or something like that. But where we're at is we need the money back to pay back to investors, and we're wanting money to go again with another project. We're in our growth phase.
So we need to get the money back to go again type thing.
And where we've got confidence as well is that actually, although we went to a 70% of loan to value, it's 70% of what the vacant possession value is. We know that the open market value is just now and in time going to be worth a lot more. So actually,
That's
fast forward 2 years' time, we could choose to refinance on open market value against that kind of 1.2 valuation, or we can just say that actually we've just baked in a bit more equity there, and we can go again.
And as those spaces have become up for relet, I know you're still pretty early days, but you must have had to relet some. You've obviously you're quite confident that you'll be able to maintain that good level of occupancy.
I would say so. Yeah, I think you see the demand. I think we're up our year's kind of renewals for a lot of our clients, and I think there's one client that's moving on, and it's because of their business.
Yeah,
at the moment, or two clients that are moving on because of their business is changed, and circumstances has changed, and that is the nature of having a flexible offering. We're not a long 5-year, 10-year lease. It is 12-month license agreements.
The relet more went up in value. There's space.
Some of them we're looking at tweaking up slightly. Some of them, with the bigger rooms, maybe we'll be like, okay, we'd be happy to just get the same again type thing. So, and I think it will, we're as we were saying, we are on that growth journey, and it will be interesting to see. It'll be a challenge for us to keep. It's had all our focus, and that's what's got it filled. We need to make sure that it stays filled. As our priorities and our focus goes elsewhere. So whether that's in terms of having employees or team members, things like that, as we grow.
Because you're not always going to be able to be there when there's an issue. So you obviously have to maintain that level of service. People are paying for it, and then with that, hopefully you'll get the word of mouth referrals and that as well.
I'm assuming you guys have already been hunting for the next building.
So our next kind of biggest project, what we're looking at doing just now is we're managing other people. So we're managing 3 buildings in Fife. So it's 3 of the Liberty Space buildings in West Fife for Jerry. So we've taken over management of them. And
how did that kind of all come about then? Just obviously you guys have got a good relationship with Jerry, was it?
Yeah, I think he was at a stage where he's looking to do other projects and other things, and maybe these buildings weren't quite part of that future plan. He's moving towards maybe higher end stuff that he's doing in the flour mill in Dundee, and these maybe don't fit with the new brand. So he was looking for something else to do with them and needed new kind of energy and focus.
And you're obviously quite good at this. You've proved it to him. He's seen what you've done, in that building in Falkirk, and probably, not straightforward. You've had to work at it and you've achieved it. So he's like, well, you guys are the team for the job then.
I think that's it. Yeah, it's a lot of trust and know that we've delivered what we can in Falkirk and proven what we can do, and it's trust to say, we can do the same in other buildings.
So you setting up as a property management, set up now, property management kind of company, we'll manage other people's buildings?
It's probably a bit of everything. I think we absolutely want to do another project like Falkirk. Absolutely. So yes, we've had an offer rejected somewhere just a while ago, and we're looking at what other opportunities are there, and we can look at managing for other people as well.
So are you rebranding like the Liberty Space ones as Brightstone Spaces and giving it, I suppose, and fitting with your branding?
Not right at the moment.
Right.
I think the Liberty Space has been around for a long time, and it's well known in the area to a degree. So, we're kind of keen to just actually leverage the brand that's already there, and then maybe in time, if it's necessary, we'll kind of rebrand.
So sorry if I'm going in too deep here, but you know I'm a nosy bastard. So do you just take a percentage, a management fee then for the rent that comes in?
So we get a fixed fee.
You get a fixed
we get a fixed fee, and then obviously there will be profit that's generated going forward, and there will be at certain points we'll have a chat about, a profit share on what's there. So we've got that guaranteed fixed fee while we're going in and, maybe getting used to everything and, getting the cogs to start spinning. So there's that guarantee for us. But then once they are spinning, there needs to be something for Jerry, there needs to be something extra for us to kind of encourage that.
So just to give us an idea of property management then within the commercial space, so what's your kind of day-to-days looking like now? Now that you've, Falkirk, it's pretty much ticking along. You're now focusing your energies on getting the occupancy rate up in these buildings, like what you having to do, are you managing refurbs? Are you just looking at attracting new tenants and clients? Or?
I think all of the above.
So give us.
It's so we could be going in. We'll have a sales meeting with the team that are there just now each week. We'll be looking at Andrew. Look at what marketing there is.
So there's already a team in place. Jerry's already got a team.
Yes, there's already a team that have came with those buildings as well. So we've got general manager who's there, who's got lots of experience, knows the local area, and has been with the buildings for some time. We've got maintenance team or a maintenance person there, and we've got a kind of receptionist come operations person as well. So they're all coming on the journey with us to reinvigorate and just get the centres performing.
Must just think he's needing a fresh approach.
I think in terms of what's a day in the life look like. First of all, starts off with a bit of travelling for us.
Because you two are based in Glasgow, right?
Glasgow based, and we're obviously spending a lot more time in Resi and Dalgety Bay now. But fundamentally, it's building relationships, getting the word out there, whole load of new people for us to meet in Fife in terms of that can maybe provide those warm leads. And to a degree, replicating maybe what we've done in Falkirk in terms of, how many places can people see us? How many places could people find us? And trying to make sure we're there so that we can get eyeballs on these sites and get people inquiring about them. There is an element of, there's a big element of finance as well. This is commercial property as a business. So we are running the profit and loss of these sites. We're running profit and loss of Brightstone Spaces as well, making sure bills are paid, making sure, that we're really managing that P&L. And then also, like you said, projects as well. On a day-to-day basis, we have pre-agreed that there's going to be 5 or 6 capital projects needing done in the sites to kind of refresh them.
Right.
And
managing refurbs and stuff.
A full-time job in itself.
So we'll be seeing a lot more skiing holiday photos from Jerry now.
Absolutely, I'm sure. Yes.
Well, he must be at that point now where he's like, I don't know. We'll need to ask Jerry these questions, but obviously getting you guys in will be a big cost to him. So he's probably like, I need to take more time. Well, he's obviously doing something else with his time.
Yeah, I think there's other focus.
He's definitely still very busy, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
With
but obviously you guys don't come cheap. Do you know what I mean? So
not anymore. That Chris has quit his job now, eh?
And I think certainly for other people looking for management, I think the key thing for us is it needs scale. There needs to be, because some people have approached us before and we've looked at things and it's maybe just too small. It needs to be big enough for everyone to make money in terms of what's important for you as an investor who wants a passive income. Well, it's getting your rental. What's important for us? Well, it's getting a management fee for our time, effort, expertise and systems. And then the profit then needs to be a profit share after.
So if you looked at this then in terms of creating the scalable business in terms of the management side and obviously, the systems, the staff and all that, what do you kind of foresee your future looking like that?
Yeah. So I think what's great is we're starting off with, someone who we've got a good relationship with, Jerry, and he's given us the space to kind of, we have been doing it for 3 weeks. So very much giving us the space to kind of find out what will work in terms of to allow us to scale the management side of things so that, we can retain the headspace to focus maybe more strategically on how to acquire more sites or how to, build those relationships with other business hub owners that might want to give us management, so that it's not us doing the minutiae. So that's definitely still early stages.
Because what would be the standard? Sorry, Chris. The standard management, like if you like commercial letting agents, commercial management, that would just probably look like a kind of a DM hall or something like that, or a But it's quite different. This whole kind of revolution of the business hubs and the shared spaces and all that, it's quite a kind of modern thing that's really taken off now, isn't it? So there's not really that many specialist management companies doing that. It's like if you're in residential, when you're managing like an HMO, it's very different to managing like what I do, standard lets and stuff like that. So it's more like if you're looking at comparing it to residential, it's more like an HMO management sort of style thing, isn't it?
If you were to compare it, I think that's a good comparison from a residential point of view, because certainly your DM hall agent or the other big corporates, they're focused on letting the space, whereas we are focused, as Andrew says, on commercial property as a business. It is a trading, there's a P&L, it's not just an investment. So there's a lot more work, staff, costs, just day-to-day operations that need done.
Yeah, because it's fully serviced.
Sales and marketing. Yeah, that's it. It's client focused. It's closer to hospitality in many ways than property.
You've had to bite your lip a few times, haven't you? It's just dealing with the challenge.
We love
we've all got challenging clients in business. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So we all get them.
But I think fundamentally, since the last podcast, we did commit to commercial, and we're just definitely on an upward trajectory with it. I think Falkirk, although it had its challenges, was actually, they were all surmountable challenges. At no point were we wanting to throw in the towel. At no point, we could always see where it was going to get to. We had the confidence in the project. And I think it's definitely, if anyone is out there wondering whether commercial is right for them, we're two absolute converts to commercial property, I think.
So no more residential then, that's it?
Never say never, but I think it's definitely not. It's not on our. Have
you got any buy-to-lets? No, you do, aye?
Yeah. That's what we built, obviously, before we went into commercial.
I couldn't remember back there. But, you do, but you just don't. You just obviously you see
they're just ticking away now.
It's definitely focusing commercial for cash flow. I think people talk about like life-changing projects, and as much as with Falkirk, with the numbers that we've done and kind of our ambition, we might not necessarily say that's a life-changing project, but actually it has changed our life significantly, because that has enabled us both to be in the property business full-time and have our full focus on commercial property.
What a track record for putting in your portfolio, for like showing other investors as well. Like, do you know what I mean? Having that, you've documented it as well. On the podcast, on your social media, people can go back and see the pictures of what you've transformed and how it's operating. You've been open and transparent with the figures as well. So for building the credibility and all that, absolutely priceless. Do you know what I mean? And even just from meeting you guys at the events and stuff like that, we've got you speaking at this coming Glasgow.
Yes.
So the networking event in Glasgow, it's always the first Wednesday of the month. We've got Chris and Andrew speaking, and obviously we'll go into what we've talked about here as well. And I always come away with absolute very inspired and motivated from listening to you guys. So thanks for sharing. I think it's been great for the community as well.
And I think thank you both for the opportunity again to come on and share our stories.
Because were you guys not logging on during like lockdown and all that for some of our Zoom calls?
From the very beginning of your podcast, you guys were definitely the first people that I tuned into in property, I think, in terms of, those
and
Zoom
after that, they're talking a load of shite. We'll move on to Jerry. Jerry certainly got his value out of you on the podcast as well. How many times you appeared on Jerry's podcast? You've been on a few times now.
2 or 3, I think.
2 or 3.
No, listen,
more to come.
In another year, we'll have you back, and there'll be loads more to talk about. That's what I love about following you guys. There's always loads happening. So appreciate you sharing.
And maybe we'll have a commercial building from you by this time next year as well.
Yes,
pressure's on, man.
You put out there.
That's one of the top questions that I get asked at the event. So Nick, how are you getting on with your commercial building? Oh fuck! I wish I'd never mentioned it on the podcast.
I thought it'd be, can I get some money since you mentioned the podcast? You had money sitting in the bank.
I think
they gave up on that.
Honestly, just having I don't want to start with the excuses, but I have numerous excuses that I could go into, which I'm not going to go into in this podcast. But guys, it's all about you today. Thanks very much for sharing your journey over the last couple of years.
Thanks a lot,
Thank you
guys.
for having
Thanks for having us
Thank you.
back.
Brilliant.
Cheers.